Continue making our way around the great American West. I'm calling it the America's 250 tour. This very patriotic summer that we're having, and it's just been amazing. Today, hanging out in the Grand Tetons, not actually in them, but just outside the Grand Tetons. If you're watching us on the channels, you can see those snow-capped peaks there. It's just so impressive. Cameras do not do it justice, so we're kind of at a little outpost here as people pull over and take their pictures. In fact, if I were to zoom out just a little bit on that shot, you can see all the folks that weaving in and out of here, standing around, just taking a look at those mountains and getting their picture made. As we're just literally, AJ just sitting in a parking lot. I decided to be indoors today after the sun and the rain and the wind was getting to us yesterday afternoon. Yeah, it's going to be a fun week. Y'all hang in here with us, and we'll keep doing it. Of course, brought to you by our friends at Appalachian Foothills RV, and they've got a RV park there too in Winfield. Did I say Hamilton earlier? I don't know why. Sometimes I get those two towns mixed up, and not to try to insult people in either one. But yeah, they're in Winfield, just right off exit 30 on I-22. And Stan and all those guys. Stan's been a friend for a long time. I got to know him years ago. I had a whole different RV. And then when they opened up the service center, I was excited because, a lot of times, especially tipping owners, if you're trying to go get get like the manufacturer warranty stuff done, they're certified to handle that for you instead of waiting in line over in Red Bay. You can go over and see them at Appalachian. And any kind of unit that you have, not just Tiffins, but if you need paint work, if you need any of there's so many appliances and systems that from time to time can go squirrely on you. I'll tell y'all some funny redneck stories that I've done already on this trip. Maybe I'll get into that here in just a minute. For when things go wrong out on the road, you just got to get by. But when it's time for service, it's time for service. I could not have gotten this thing ready for this trip with some fundamental things. For example, what's powering the show right now is my generator that's on board, and it was starting to act squirrely. It had a thermostat issue. So that sounded like something easy. I thought, I can pop a thermostat on there. I can open it up, watch a YouTube video, order a thermostat. Then realize you got to pull this whole unit out. It's like 5 hours of work just to get to it. So those guys just did it for me and fixed my hot water system, and just wouldn't be the same trip without them. In fact, I'd have to go plug up somewhere to do the show today instead of having this off the grid kind of independence. And it's because of the good guys over at Appalachian. So y'all go see them for anything you need. And a little bit later on the show, as we get into the week, I'll start collecting names. But they gave us some cool merch and hats and sweatshirts and stuff. We'll give some of those away to folks around home. I may be giving a few of those away out here on the road too. So if you're watching on camera, we're not having an earthquake. The wind is just blowing that little camera lens around because the winds do kick up here quite a bit. So you'll see that from time to time on our I call them my beauty shots, because this shot right here of me standing here in front of the mic, that is not your beauty shot, AJ. This is your beauty shot right there, downrange in the Tetons. All right, I tell you what, let's just get started with phone calls this hour. We've gone through a lot of the headlines today. Not much has developed other than this Fulton County situation where another federal judge has stepped in to try to block the Justice Department from doing its duty and investigating the corruption from 2020. Probably not a surprise. It's probably just a delay. Most of these things have been overturned, but it's got to be frustrating to try to be, cleaning up government, going after corruption, and hitting, just hitting walls at every turn from government, from the other side of government. It's just where we are in the country sometimes. Bill is in Birmingham. Let's get Bill in here, and we'll keep going with by the way, if you're a newbie, you want to just get in, talk about travel or the news, 545-9950. Bill, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, Leland, I want to talk a little bit about the Fulton County proposal or the action there you were talking about. And, hello from a cloudy and hot and humid Birmingham.
All my friends are telling me that, yep.
Yeah. But anyway, if I understood what you said, that's the first I've heard. The Department of Justice basically had a subpoena for they wanted a list of election workers' names.
Yeah,
right?
There's probably other stuff in there, but that's the headline so far. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's my thought. I mean, certainly they're probably going to appeal it, and maybe they get it, but maybe they get it. Let's say they do get it though. is it likely that those names would go public?
Let me try to understand your question. That should be public information anyway. These people are working to ensure the functionality of an election, and everybody that's volunteered or in a paid capacity that works on any election ought to be a matter of public record. Now, as you know, when you're pursuing a criminal case, you've got to document things. So you need documents to go along with that record. And so they're just asking for this. Everybody involved in that election is a potential witness. So the government, to do its basic due diligence, needs a list of the people that were involved.
Well, let me ask a couple of comments there. One, I have not been an election worker. I'll admit that. But if I were an election worker in today's environment, I'd like to know when I volunteer up front that, I could be, publicly identified. And the reason is, I'll go to this. In Georgia, as you probably know, there were a couple of workers that were specifically pointed out by Mr. Trump's campaign, I think specifically Rudy Giuliani. And those two workers received death threats.
Well, you know what? Every time somebody winds up in a controversy in this country, they talk about receiving death threats. And a lot of times the threats are bogus and it's not true. Elections are a public function. If you work on an election, you're part of that public function. When I walk in to vote in person, every one of those people have name badges on. They're doing a public service. This is not private information. All of this stuff should be on the public record.
Okay, but let me go on to say that those two ladies sued. And
in Fulton County. and won these big rewards. I know it. I know. It's corrupt as hell.
Along with the $750 million case that Dominion, I think, Computing brought against Fox, right?
Yeah, well, Dominion is starting to drop those cases because of the discovery that's starting to happen. Fox settled that case to make it go away, but they've now started dropping other similar cases that they had. Fox may have settled prematurely in that situation as well. And those lawsuits and those awards and all that stuff are as bogus as the election was in Fulton County anyway. It's the system protecting the system. What we need as American citizens is transparency. We need sunshine. We need facts and information, and hiding it behind this false notion that somehow these people are under threat is just complete and utter nonsense.
Okay, let me ask you this. You said the SAVE Act would prevent.
The SAVE Act would go a long way to require, create some uniform standards among states that at least some of the most fundamental things are required for you to participate in deciding the direction of our government. And that would be you are who you say you are as a voter and you identify yourself, and that you're a citizen of this country.
So even though we don't know what happened in Fulton, I mean,
I think we very much know what happened in Fulton.
Well, we don't know. Well, what was it?
They faked a shutdown at the State Farm Center, claiming a water leak that did not happen. They ran off the media and the observers and the other election watchers. And during that downtime, when they ran the observers off and the media off, they continued to count ballots. And we've seen video of them. There were ballot dumps in the middle of the night. Suddenly ballots showed up that weren't there. The totals radically changed right after those ballots were submitted in the direction of Biden. Trump only lost that state by what was 11,000 votes. And we could not get a decent investigation into any of the angles of corruption, any of a number of angles of corruption that should have been investigated to start with.
So let me ask you this. What in the SAVE Act would stop that?
Well, you wouldn't have fake ballots coming through the mail from people that aren't people, or people that are dead, or people that are in prison and could not vote.
But that's not what you said happened.
People, illegal immigrants. No, there were thousands of inappropriate ballots that got into that system that shouldn't have been in the system, and that stuff needs to be vetted out up front ahead of the election. The key to election integrity, the key to election integrity, Bill, is proper voter rolls to begin with. That everybody on that roll is eligible to vote and a legitimate voter of age and a citizen of this country. The voter rolls in Fulton County are a mess. They hid and destroyed a bunch of evidence that was in a warehouse right after the election that they were told to hang on to, and they destroyed that evidence. They've been covering the stuff up since that night, and we all know it. Everybody with any common sense knows that the mathematical anomalies, the video evidence, the document dumps, these duplicitous people that were working to stuff those ballots in the middle of the night, the SAVE Act it does not seek to course correct after an election or during the counting. It seeks to fix the problems before we ever go vote. And that's the beauty of it, is to ensure some integrity of who gets to vote and who doesn't. I will submit to you, Brad Raffensperger is a criminal, and he was part of this whole thing.
And the governor of Georgia said it was
I don't trust him either.
Okay.
I don't trust any of them. They're protecting the system.
Well, I mean, I could go on, but I would just say that if your son, let's say, decided to be, or you decided to be an election worker, you know, what would you want to volunteer that under the idea that you're going to be potentially subpoenaed and questioned?
Because I live in the real world, I would believe if I did a public service of something like working in an election, that I'm on the record as working in the election. So what they're doing here is they want to talk to these people not as criminals, but as witnesses to some of the stuff that we think might be criminal or should at least be vetted. Despite all the claims that all these cases were dismissed, they were dismissed on technical merits, on standing, on timelines. We've never had a proper investigation and a real trial or hearing about the facts and evidence of that time and that election that night in Georgia or Arizona or Pennsylvania or the other places where shenanigans happen simultaneously. In the history of this country, have we ever had simultaneous shutdowns of counting in the middle of the night, and then we had ballot dumps after the shutdowns, and then a complete flip of the election? That's never happened. That's never happened.
Probably have, but we just didn't know.
It has never happened in the history of this country. It has never happened. We used to count votes that night and knew who won late in the evening. All that's changed because the Democrats keep creating rules that allow them to cheat. Rules on identification, on ghost ballots, on mail drops. All of this stuff is on counting for a month, voting for a month. All of this stuff is designed to give them room to cheat, and they just did it in LA too. That stuff's got to change. We're not going to trust elections going forward. If we need to be in person, on paper, that day, and we count them that night. That's it. It's the way we've done it, and it's the way many civilized countries do it to this day all over the world, and they do a better job than we do.
One last thing. I know you're the host, but you're about 4-1 on my talk time. Let me just throw one more at you. There were a lot of affidavits. That were submitted about election issues. But would you agree that an affidavit is not necessarily true? It's just a statement of what someone thinks they may have seen.
Yeah, it is. But what you do with that is take that person as a witness in an investigation or a trial, and then determine truth through that process, through a trial. We never had that. We had lots of witnesses that got dismissed. So that's the beginning stages of finding out what a person has to say. What we want in this case, Bill, and I appreciate your approach, but what I think a fair-minded person would want is the truth. And to get to the truth, the Justice Department wants to talk to the people that worked in the election to see what they saw or what they were a part of that night and collect statements, affidavits under oath from these people to get to the bottom of the election and what happened in Fulton County. And here's a judge blocking them from the basic elements of an investigation or to talk to the witnesses, and they're not allowed to do it.
Well, one last thing, and that is I've been waiting 6 years for the truth. I agree with you. I want to find it, but I've been waiting 6 years.
I'm the same way. I just, whether you believe it was stolen or not, everybody has to agree. We never had a real investigation or a real examination of the evidence and fact in front of a jury or a court in Fulton County at all. And all of it's been rebuffed and pushed back and pushed off, and the public's ready for something else. All right, buddy, I appreciate it, Bill. I appreciate the call very, very much. Alan and company bringing you the show tonight. My camera decided to drift over to the skyline. There we go. We got some nice clouds starting to build. We've had rain just about every day out here near the Tetons and around this part of Wyoming, which is wonderful compared to the rest of the West, as things are dry and dangerous with fire season. But let me talk about Allen and Company. I know it's July. We've passed the halfway mark in the year, and maybe it's a little soon to talk about Christmas. But if you're thinking about doing something big for Christmas, maybe it's a proposal, an engagement, or a ring upgrade, fellas. If she's been dealing with you all this time and it's time for her to get a new diamond in that setting, start working with Allen and Company. They'll just send her by there. Let them get to know her taste, her preferences, what she really likes. She don't want you hovering. And then they'll keep a nice list of that. And then from there, you can go double back, find out what's doable for you, what's in your budget. And then she wins. You can still surprise her at Christmas, but let her sort of window shop a little bit. If it's an engagement setting, she's going to change her mind 10 times, fellas. So let her go and change her mind 10 times until she's gotten what her heart wants, and then you win. Allen Company's happy to handle that. They've almost got a little coded wink and a nod system of getting this worked out with couples. So you can still get the fun surprise, and she gets what she wants. Everybody's happy. That's what happens when you got a family-run business. A couple of generations there. It's a small shop by design. Allen's an expert master jeweler. Can design, create, clean, fix, adjust anything in your collection of beautiful things, sentimental things. You can trust them to take all your stuff by there and have them look at it and take care of that for you. Allen tries to turn that stuff around within a week. His goal is to get it in their shop. He does it himself. They never have to ship your items off to somebody else. And when it's done, you win. Y'all, it's Allen and Company in Vestavia on the big hill. They're on the car wash side to give you some direction when you're looking for them. Y'all tell them we said hello, and y'all start thinking about Christmas. It's not too soon. Allen and Company. Man, let's keep on trucking as we roll through a beautiful afternoon. See the rain on the radar in Birmingham. Just check the cameras around my house. It is pouring rain. Lots of rain this summer. I do think a lot of this is the El Nino stuff. I ain't trying to spook y'all, but I saw a snow mount prediction, and these are these wild ballpark kind of prediction estimates of what may happen seasonally. And I guess the Farmer's Almanac and the Groundhog may be even more accurate. But this thing showed a snow band across the south where the opportunity for snow could increase for us this winter. It makes sense if we're getting more moisture in with the cold air, then that's what you need for snow. We'll see how that plays out. All I know is a big part of this trip and getting ready for this trip, talked a lot about my friends at Appalachian Foothills getting the motorhome ready, but the other half of the trip is the Jeep. Man, can't live without it. Got to have a way to get around once you get parked. And I love my little Jeep that we take around with us, but it needed a servicing. It needed some work. And Michael and the guys down at Tapco just absolutely, I mean, it was the last couple of weeks before I left, and I knew I needed some oil change and maybe a little bit of brake service because it had been a minute. And sure enough, I needed some brake work. But they found some seals and some bearings that really could have wrecked my trip if I'd have gotten out here on these hills, in these mountains, doing this Jeep driving and this off-road you do sometimes out this way. Would have been a problem. Would have been hard to do the radio show that way. But I trusted Michael and his team. They did it that day. I mean, they got the parts in, got everything done, got everything straightened out, and brought my vehicle back to me. I went down there and then went to the radio show and went up to the studio in Homewood. And sure enough, man, they had that thing done. I was happy. They were happy. Life's good. That's what you can trust them to do for you, too. This is a high-end service center. They do the technical stuff, too. If you got a fancy car with a lot of computers on it, Michael and his team can absolutely service it and get to the bottom of those issues. So get to know them, become a customer, get 10% off by dropping my name. Go down to Michael. They're on 6th Avenue, downtown Birmingham. They'll even give you a ride back to work if you need that so they can service your car for the day. Let them do your service work. And then when you get in a crisis, you know who your go-to is. You got that relationship, and you can get in there and take care of the big stuff too. It's Tapco, T-A-P-C-O, TapcoBHAM.com, TapcoBHAM.com. Well, let me see. I know the clock is late. Let me get Joe in here. Joe, if we don't have enough time, you want to hold and go right after the break? Give you a little more time?
Yeah, I was just going to say to the recent caller, Judicial Watch sued California and multiple liberal states about their voters' roll. There were like 500,000 in some of those states that needed to be cleaned up. They actually won cases, had to go back a year later because the state would not clean them up and sue them again to get it cleaned up. So it's inevitable that those states are using those, or else they would have gotten rid of them. And it's not the first time, definitely the second time after they were sued once to have them done. And
good call, Joe. Thanks, buddy. All right, y'all, 434, Leland Live, Talk 99.5, Alabama Gold Refinery, next up here on the show. Man, I just love Steve's shop. It's fun to go in there, and I feel smarter when I go in there because you get to talking to him, and, man, he just knows his stuff. He knows all about all of this stuff and can just educate you. He took me back to biblical days on why gold holds its own, and same lecture about silver and other precious metals. It's just smart. Most basic financial advisors would tell you to diversify what you got your money in. So a little bit of real estate, a little bit of stock market, a little bit of gold, a little bit of cash maybe, and other things. Some people invest in art and collectible things, but you can put your money in things that do appreciate. But with gold, it just holds its own. It's a real measure of wealth, and you don't have to start off big time. You can start slowly with whatever you can handle in the moment, and they'll help you with it, of course. At AGR, AlabamaGoldRefinery.com. Alabama Gold Refinery. They're in Homewood, centrally located for our listening area. And then, of course, right there on 29th in front of that big Regions Bank building. You'll appreciate getting to know Steve, all the security features they have to go in and out with your cash and your stuff, but also get you on a good track. Now, I was just mentioning Christmas a second ago. I love the idea. One of our listeners said he always buys his grandkids silver coins and things like that so they can really – hold it. It's, you can give them a bond or a certificate or something, and it's just a piece of paper to them, but it helps them understand the tangible value of things and start investing and growing things. It's good to teach kids that kind of stuff. They don't teach it in the schools anymore. It's Alabama Gold Refinery, AGR, Alabama Gold Refinery.com. Man, we just moving this camera around the Grand Tetons as the sun goes down this afternoon. Taking a little look at different angles. Keep trying to shuffle it a little bit, AJ. Trying to keep the camera off me as I sit here in the nice air conditioning this afternoon. Rain out there in the forecast, or actually on the radar right now. So be careful going home as we're getting into, sure enough, drive time this afternoon. 545-9950 if you want to get on the radio show as we're continuing our remote shows out west. Warren, I think, is still there. Or is Joe still there, AJ? I think we got done with Joe.
Yeah, we're done with Joe, and Warren's on line one.
All right, let's talk to Warren over here on line one. Warren, what's up, buddy?
Hey, by the way, Joe was absolutely right. I think in California alone there were 1.5 million votes that they had been told to scrub from their voter rolls because a lot of those people were dead. That's just one state. Bill is concerned about those two women. You could see as soon as the room was cleared, they're pulling these things out from the table skirts, and they and 3 other people, I believe, start feeding them into machines. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there are so many things to say about. Is he concerned about the thousands of people who worked at election facilities and they were witnesses, also election observers, and the FBI came down on them, did not treat any of them like witnesses. They were all treated like suspects. The day after Wisconsin declared that Biden supposedly won by 20,000 votes, Wisconsin destroyed 200,000 votes. So it sounds to me like Trump actually won Wisconsin by 180,000 votes. There was a truck driver who was in New Jersey, and he saw what they were loading on his truck, and it was filled out election ballots.
Oh, yeah. And he testified to that, and they went after him, trying to take his pension, too, yeah. Anybody that popped their head up to challenge what they had done were ostracized. They even tried to ostracize anybody that would question. They came up with the phrase election deniers. What does that even mean? That's not a thing.
Right.
But they were using that like they do nowadays with the phrase or the word. They call anybody racist that they disagree with, and it shuts people down because nobody wants to be that. Even if you know you're right and you've got a reason to question, the left is very good at semantics. And so they did that with that whole thing, and very and the sad part was the mainstream media, it being so in unison with it, not skeptical, not doing their jobs, not questioning government, but just trumpeting all of the talking points to move us past what happened in November, and it damn sure needs to be looked into. And the bottom line, if we look into it and we have a trial or people are indicted or arrested, and that's the system working. If nothing happened, they're clear. We can shut up about it. But we know good and well that what happened that night was completely beyond. You have to suspend reality to believe any of that stuff was proper or necessary. Even the continuing to count ballots while the watchers are missing is an inappropriate thing to be doing that night anyway. And they flat did it simultaneously. And here's my theory. I didn't mean to step on you too much, Warren, but my theory all along has been this. Trump, they did not expect, he caught him by surprise that night. They did not expect him to turn out the vote totals that he did, and they had to play catch up. It's why they've started changing election laws and adding time to keep counting after an election, which of course the Supreme Court just gave them a clear path to do that now, or sort of a limited path to do that. And so they had to play catch up. The numbers, they were being overwhelmed by in-person voting that caught them all by surprise that day, especially in Georgia, of Trump supporters. So the only way to catch up and to know what the margin is to stop the process and stuff some more ballots into the system. I think they'd already stuffed a lot, and they came within 11,000 of losing the state of Georgia. That was a tight race, and there were too many anomalies in a race that close, less than 1%, not to go through and scrutinize all the procedures and everybody involved. We're just now doing that because the Biden Justice Department held this off for 4 years.
I know Bill says, he's been waiting 6 years for the proof. Well, what do you have to say to the judge who just shut down, asking these people who were the election, whatever, asking them what happened under oath? Just a couple other things. North Carolina, they'd already counted 97% of the vote, and they made the mistake of telling how many votes there supposedly were, and Trump was too far ahead. They had to let that one go.
Yeah.
There were 19 counties that election after election had determined they'd all voted for the person who won the presidency. 19 counties.
Oh, yeah.
18 of them went for Trump. One.
Well, let's talk about you just mentioned the word proof, right? None of this is proof. And I gave the speech back then when we were doing this stuff. What it is evidence. And so proof comes after all the evidence has been weighed. And that's what we're going right now. We're watching this Charlie Kirk preliminary hearing. I don't think one single thing is proof, but when you're trying to build a case and pursue a criminal investigation, you take all those pieces and the sum total of those parts become proof enough for guilt or innocence or whatever. So each of these anomalies, the eyewitness statements, all these things people are calling about, were pieces of evidence. And none of them were on their own proof, even the video of the ladies pulling ballots out.
Right.
But it's something suspicious that may be part of something else that's another piece of evidence. And the only way to get to the bottom of that ever was to put all that in front of a jury or apply that to the laws and decide if there's culpability. We've never done that, despite this false notion from leftists here in the country that all that's been checked into. It never was checked. All of those cases were denied on standing. Even the Supreme Court kicked out a bunch of states that wanted to look into the states that were corrupt. They just threw them out and said that Alabama did not have standing to question what Georgia did, even though Georgia's corruption affected the outcome of an election that affects us. It was on standing. Some of it was on deadlines, and it's completely corrupt. And I think we're not doing this nation justice to not get to the bottom of it.
68 of 69 judges declared there was no standing. The one I think who said there was standing, he was just standing to keep recounting the same votes.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Why is it that, I'll let you go.
Well, thanks, Warren. I want to get Keith in here.
I could say about it.
I know it, man. I could go all afternoon too, and it all starts coming back to me, all the things that we learned and knew. we screamed to the moon about it back then, but we're kind of powerless. Look, and the thing about, let me give you the cake analogy again. I've used this so many times since 2020, but we get new listeners all the time. If most of us understand a basic cake recipe, you're going to have flour, you're going to have eggs, you're going to have these ingredients in a cake. But if I presented you with a cake that was already baked, it was already frosted, it was just sitting there, and I said, okay, show me, where are the eggs? Show me the eggs in that cake. You couldn't cut that cake apart and show eggs. They were cooked into it. But we know they're in there. If you taste it, you could tell they're in there if the cake was made right. Elections are like that. Once the ballots are in, the cake is made. You can recount them all day long. If you've got thousands of bad ballots from fake people, from double ballots, criminals, dead people, people that shouldn't be, foreigners, people that shouldn't be in that pile, you can't go back and connect those to the source after they voted, because we protect our privacy of how we vote. So you don't know which ones were for Trump. You don't know which ones were for Biden back then. And it's impossible to do it after the fact. It's like unkilling somebody after they've been shot. All you can do is examine the body at that point, and the person's dead. You've got to fix this stuff on the front end. It's the voter rolls, it's the registrations, it's the proof that you have the ability to decide who runs this country. That should only be us, the citizens, or members of these states. It should not be people that just got here and are on the dole that don't know anything about this country. This is our country. They can vote in their country. And by the way, the deportations, we're not sending them to hell. They're not sending them to concentration camps. They're not going to Auschwitz. They're not going to prison unless they're criminals. They're going home to their mama's house where they live. Home is home. If this isn't your home and that is your home, we're going to send you to that home. And if you're here and you're not an American citizen, we want at least that standard. And the only way to do that is to have some proof of citizenship by an identity ahead of time, and the rolls are vetted and the bad stuff's cleaned off. The dead people are off. The double votes are off. People that move from state to state and vote in two different states are off. But if you want to blow that system wide open, you just mail ballots to everybody that's got a driver's license, whether they just got here from El Salvador on their MS-13 caravan or not, they get a ballot. Some people got 7 or 8 ballots, and I remember those stories from in and around Denver. If we don't fix this, the distrust of the outcome of these things is only going to grow, and then we descend into, I don't know what, probably civil war. I mean, you've got to be able to trust that at least, whether you hate the outcome of the election, that at least it was done fairly. We just got our butts whipped in the World Cup. We talked about the football last night quite a bit. Then America got spanked. I was so embarrassed. But still enjoyed, I guess, trying to understand soccer for a couple of hours. But we accept the outcome. We congratulate the other team. We move on. Maybe we'll do better next time. That used to be in a system of trust how elections went. They've been blowing that apart for years. I started investigating election fraud in I did a couple stories as a reporter, but when I transitioned into politics in 96 was my first real awareness of how much work and money and resources the Democrats put into ballot election fraud and shenanigans. They put a lot of work into that. Even when it was mechanical machines, they had tricks to try to get more votes in for themselves. I give them credit. They'll cut any corner they can to stay in power. Republicans can't even find their balls to pass the SAVE Act to put some integrity back in that process in these states like California that are going to rip the rest of the country off. All right, let me see if I can get Keith in here. We got a couple minutes before the break. Keith, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Leland. Hey, I'm glad to hear you back on the radio. Hey, you're out there around the Grand Tetons. You know the French named that, right?
It sounds French, and I know that's a joke. That is not what it means. They're not giant boobs.
Hey, listen, you need to just take the time. It's an enjoyable movie. It's an old black and white movie set back in the Great Depression called The Great McGinty, and it's about a guy that it was a mayoral election up in Chicago, and they show how these guys, they would give them the names of people. You go to this precinct and you tell so-and-so that you're this person and you're going to vote in this person's name, and we'll give you $1 for every. And so these guys are coming in and getting $1 or $2. This one guy, McGinty, ends up getting like $80 in the election, and it freaks them out.
Yep.
Because he just kept getting more and more names, and so he eventually becomes the governor of the state, and then they impeach him because of corruption and all that. But it's a great movie, and it talks about everything that you've been talking about today, Leland. It's just it's well worth your time to watch it because the way they do it is so great. It's just it's a really old movie too.
I'll have to check that out.
This is stuff that we've been dealing with this stuff for a long time. The Great McGinty. If you get a chance, you ought to watch it. So
thank you, Keith. Good tip, man. I appreciate it tonight. Man. Y'all, Mandu's bringing you the show this evening as we look at the Grand Tetons. Y'all quit doing the 14-year-old joke. That does not mean boobs. AJ, have you ever heard that? I did see a T-shirt in Jackson Hole. It was a woman's T-shirt that says, "My husband loves my Tetons." I mean, come on. People have always made that joke. Now we're Beavis and Butthead. That's okay, Keith. That was funny.
I mean, look, they got Teton and Jackson Hole. I'm just going to leave it at that. So.
Well, okay. All right. I didn't even think of that. Bunch of perverts. Y'all, Mandu.
Hey, they're the ones that named it, not us. I mean.
Y'all just got to come here and see this. I'm telling you. Right now, I can just show you live shots. Listen, Mandu. Y'all, it's time to get it right. Get it tied over at Paul's shop in Homewood. Mandu.com. Y'all, this is very different. I've tried to explain it. The only way to understand it is to do it, and I mean that. Now, to be fair, some of you are not medically eligible to do Mandu. You got to clear a couple of medical questions, but if you're eligible to try it and you want a very efficient way to tone yourself, shape your body, and feel good about yourself, it's Mandu. I think it's a good compliment to the folks that are doing the GLP-1 stuff. You're doing that because it's effective, and I wouldn't say it's a shortcut, but it's a very efficient way to control your appetite. But the other half of that, if you're not working out and working on your bone and muscle density, you're just not doing it right. You're going to wither. So you got to do the other half. Well, in a way to get this done in 15 minutes every day or two every 2 days at minimal, you got to try Mandu. It's a full body workout in 15 minutes, electronic muscle stimulation. Mandu.com. MANDUU, Mandu.com. In Homewood. Back in a minute. Man, y'all get on back in here as we're hanging out here on the road in Wyoming. Those, if you're watching online, are the Grand Tetons. We've been showing them to you all afternoon. I decided to sit indoors today, but put the cameras outdoors. Y'all don't need me out there. Beautiful place in the world. If you ever get a chance to come out here, y'all come out here. It's just, especially in the summer, I'm telling you, the time to come. I know it's a little more crowded in the summer, but to get out of all that heat and to be in these cooler mountain air temperatures is a nice escape. Lonnie's Furniture Company bringing you the show tonight, Launius. That's the place for all the selection you could possibly handle. I'm telling you, it's an acre of furniture under one roof, and the kindest people in the business that know their stuff. Arlene is a certified, genuine, USDA, non-GMO, free-range decorator, man. She's got all these degrees, worked in the finest homes around the country, and she's right there in Kimberly, Alabama. Can help you really pull it together. I like her style because she's not pushy. She doesn't tell you what you want, but she listens to you and helps give you options, give you choices until you figure it out. Boy, I know I needed that help back in the day. They're really good like that. It's Lonnie's Furniture Company. Again, always deals on Lazy Boys. They got more Lazy Boys than any Lazy Boy shop you'll ever go in. Launius, off exit 280 in Kimberly, Alabama. When I say 280, because I don't want y'all thinking I'm saying Highway 280. But whether you're going north or south, you get off on 280 and roll about a mile down the road on 31, you'll see them. LauniusFurnitureCompany.com. All right, a couple of other election-oriented things this afternoon. I've ignored, and this was going on before I went on vacation, but I've been ignoring this Graham Plattner story up in Maine. It's just, he's a weirdo. But it is really, he's in a number of ways just exposed nothing but sleazy hypocrisy among the Democrats, because he is everything they claim a lot of the people in MAGA and others are. You know, he's a misogynist, it appears. I mean, he's freaking Nazi, weird extreme ideas, just a strange dude, an abuser. And they were willing to look past that because he was what they were left with. And they do that all the time. They'll accept a flawed candidate and go ahead and vote for him anyway if it means power. And so they were on that track. And he probably would have had a shot to win. Maine's a weird state. And so they're in their process right now of trying to decide. He's going up against Susan Collins. They need this Senate seat. They're not likely to get control of the Senate, but they damn sure are not going to be able to do it without the state of Maine. It ought to be theirs anyway. Susan Collins is a squish, but I guess she's our squish, and about 50% of the time votes right. So it's what you get out of Maine. So they're after her, and so they put this Plattner guy up. He's a straight, just thug, right? So they keep lying to themselves like they did with Biden the whole time. Oh, he's sharp as a tack. And anything else they decide they all need to be convinced of, they'll just stick to the script. Well, it all came busting loose in the last few days. Now, there had been rape allegations against this guy in the past, but it came from a conservative political operative up there. So they blew it off. The Democrats she doesn't count, right? If you're black and conservative, you're not black. If you're a woman and conservative, you're not a woman. And so that's their standard. And suddenly, out of nowhere, you got this Democrat hag is coming out saying some very gross, detailed stuff about this guy. And now the cards are falling in. The house is falling in on him. Bernie Sanders just put a statement out. He was foursquare behind this guy, and because they're all socialist. So Bernie Sanders just said he's urging him to get out of the race. Now, I don't know who they're going to try to replace him with. They only got a week to do it. Here's the truth. The poll numbers collapse. The public's lost trust in him. His chances of winning are gone, and so he's not of use to them anymore. So they're burning his house down. Let's just get the popcorn. This doesn't involve anybody on our side. It's the freak show on the left. Back here in a minute.